He has been instrumental in establishing Kerala as a hub of medical technology development and manufacturing, and he has a strong background in medical technology and has led various initiatives to promote innovation and collaboration in the healthcare sector. Of course, he is also the chairman and managing director of Thermo Penpol Private Limited, Mr. C. Padmakumar. Hearty welcome to the stage, sir. He is the moderator of this session. He'll be hosting the fireside chat and moderating the panel discussion as well.
It's initially one-to-one and after.
Welcome, sir. And now, in conversation with him, as the speaker in the fireside chat, is the Executive Chairman of Bharat Biotech International Limited, Dr. Krishna Ella. He founded Bharat Biotech in 1996, a distinguished scientist and entrepreneur known for developing several groundbreaking vaccines, including Covaxin, which is India's first indigenous COVID-19 vaccine. Over to you, Mr. C. Padmakumar.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session, which I think promises to be instructive and maybe an eye-opener in many ways. So it's about a sector which is reasonably new, at least in terms of awareness to the audience in Kerala. So we are talking about life sciences and medical devices. Not many people may know that Kerala has a pretty good track record in the medical devices space, also in life sciences. To give you a few numbers, Kerala accounts for a little over 15% of the medical device industry of the country. In spite of having a very small population, we account for only about 3% of India's population. We also have 85 companies, which is about 8% of the total number. Our combined revenue is a little over $1 billion, and quite a significant portion of that is from exports. Life sciences, on the other hand, we're talking about a strong presence in nutraceuticals, in Ayurveda. We have a fledgling biotechnology industry, and we have here somebody who is the doyen of the biotechnology industry, somebody who has practically helped build the industry in the country, Dr. Krishna Ella, who is the recipient of the Padma Bhushan and who is executive chairman of Bharat Biotech International. I'm sure all of you will join me in welcoming Dr. Krishna Ella to this fireside chat. Dr. Ella, I'd like to start by asking you a question regarding the industry itself. The biotechnology industry has been extremely successful, growing from something like $10 billion in 2015 to more than $130 billion today, and I believe we are on track to hit $300 billion in 2030. This is an amazing growth story. What would you attribute this success to? What do you think has helped us be so successful in biotechnology?
I think the major reason for the India's success is entrepreneurship. That's a contrast with various other countries where the government policies are pushing the entrepreneurship to grow, whereas this country is driven by entrepreneurs and passion for the scientist-driven entrepreneurship. Besides, some of the biotech policies that have come out from the Department of Biotechnology has also facilitated the process. By the way, there is no private equity for biotech companies in India. When we started, there's zero private equity, zero interest in even biotech companies, and all in last 25 years. We were the second biotech company in the country to start. And I think, the nice thing about the country is the young generation of Indians, they are vibrant. They are the one who is driving this country's growth. Like, for example, in Chitra Tirunal Institute, He is the foundation for the entire medical device for Kerala. Otherwise, nobody will know medical device in the entire Kerala. The one anchor industry, anchor institute, has facilitated so many entrepreneurs. That 85 companies you're talking, that 85 entrepreneurs is bringing a success for the Kerala. So it is entrepreneurs who are driving this country's growth. That's my sincere observation. And yes, like Chetathanal, DBT, all facilitate the process, but still entrepreneurs are who are driving the growth.
So, Dr. Ella, when you started the business in India, I believe this was in the year 1996, and India was a very different place at the time. The business environment was different, not so encouraging. We were just coming out of a very deep hole. What made you actually decide to start a business in India, and why didn't you start it, for example, in the US?
I mean, I was a student in US, faculty in US. My mom told me only one thing. My mom said, son, you have 9 inches stomach. How much over dollars you make in US, you can't eat more than 9 inches stomach. Come back, do whatever you like to do. I am from farming family. I'll feed your stomach. So take risk. Do whatever you like to do for the country. Whatever you can do for the society, do it. And you will not be starving even a day. That one philosophy, I said, my old mother is telling me to take a risk. I'm a stupid idiot if I don't do that. And I think we sold the house in US, came back, and 2 medical doctors in US has angel investors. Each one put $100,000. That's how we start. And I don't think even you can get a loan in India when you don't have much assets with you. And there's no private equity in the country. So literally it was harsh. But today, the younger generation, people are talking about 1 billion, $500 million, all valuation, everybody $1 billion talking about it. But in the beginning, there was nothing there. We started from the bottom. But I think the young generation, if you can little facilitate, things will change in the country. But things have changed in the last 25 years, last 15 years, at least last 10 years, quite a bit changes in the country.
Dr. Ella, I was going through your mission statement, and it's very clear that Bharat Biotech is focused on the needs of the healthcare needs of people in the emerging markets. Now, this is a little surprising to me because when looked at from a business standpoint, most people target the much smaller in number, but much more profitable and much larger markets in the US, EU, and Japan. So could you throw some light on what made you, apart from any other reasons like you've explained, and especially the business reasons, why you think this makes sense to focus on emerging markets?
Very good question, Padma Kumar. See, when I started a company, do I want to compete with US or do I want to compete with the multinational? Both are not my ideological angle. So I know that there's no point in competing with US. There's no competing with a multinational like Pfizer, Merck, and all that. So I said I choose different route. I said I focused, my whole mission was neglected disease. That was a focus I chose as a field. And I'll tell you why the neglected disease is coming back into the much more limelight today. Most of the neglected diseases are in Asia and Africa. And then you look at the population of the developing world is 6 billion out of 7 billion. So if we can scale up the process of industrial scale that can cater to the 6 billion population, the size at which I can scale up, which multinational cannot do it. So you need a huge volume. And this learning curve of scaling up will help me to bring the cost down. Number one. Number two, if I can have a reach of 6 billion population, I will have better control of the marketing game. Number three, I don't compete with US companies and European companies in that spectrum. Besides, all neglected disease, what turns into pandemic? You look at whether it's yellow fever to Ebola, every disease you look at it, most of the neglected diseases are in Asia and Africa. And that is what is turning into pandemic. That's how we were able to get on to quickly into COVID vaccine. That philosophy, what we put in 25 years back, of mission of neglected disease, that came into handy for us in COVID or chikungunya or Zika, all those field, we got into it because quickly got into that mission we had it 25 years back.
So would you also say that these segments that you were targeting had less competition?
Yes. For example, chikungunya, less competition. COVID, I think we are the only company from developing world to come to that level. So that, we are able to almost with the US and UK competition in that level on the COVID vaccine. So I think like Zika, again, we were the first one to file a global patent in the world. So less competition. So which even US companies were not able to think about chikungunya and Zika. So we were suddenly emerged out quickly on that. And we see a niche where the multinational cannot focus. We take advantage of that situation. And to whether we like it or not, but those choices are turning to become a pandemic problem.
So talking about multinationals, we generally in India, the medical profession, especially since we're talking about medical devices and pharmaceuticals, there is a feeling that most Indian companies are not research intensive. I think by and large it is true that Indian investment in R&D is very low compared to global levels. So we hear this justification by MNCs that their high prices are due to their heavy investments in R&D. But I also understand that Bharat Biotech is a research-led company with significant investments in R&D. So how do you reconcile this apparent contradiction? You're able to make and supply affordable vaccines, and yet you have significant investments in R&D. What is the secret?
See, we have four costs. We're very four costs in vaccine field. Number one, infrastructure. We have to set up an entire manufacturing plant even before getting into phase 1 human clinical trial. Number one. That's a high capital investment. Wait for 10, 12 years revenue coming from that infrastructure that is created. Number two, R&D. See, R&D, again, we don't have much money from the government. Whatever they give, 50 lakhs, I think it is enough for the travel bill itself. So not enough for the R&D expenditure. Number third expenditure for us, the clinical trial. It's a massive. Almost in a product development, 75% of cost goes on the clinical trial. Almost 70% clinical trial cost. And fourth is the marketing cost, and to create a brand yourself as a company. So as you said, Indian company cannot invest in R&D. That is not true. See, you look at my salary is lesser than a scientist salary of GSK. So I think as a chairman also still my salary is less, number one. Number two, we never gave a dividend in the company. All our profit, we've flown back into R&D and infrastructure. And third is a clinical trial cost, which is very difficult for us to borrow loan. Thanks to GATE Foundation, they gave almost $300 million on various grants on a clinical trial program. And besides, Wellcome Trust also gave some money. Government of India also gave some money, free grant. That all helped us, almost nearly $350 million of worth of clinical trial. A lot of efficacy trial, like rotavirus vaccine, typhoid conjugate, human challenge studies, all that, the effectiveness studies in 8-9 countries. We have done more than 25 countries clinical trial, more than 150 clinical trial. That costed almost $350 million. Thanks to the international agency, they funded us. That made us to bring the affordability of the vaccine. Suppose if I spend that amount of money from my ass, the cost of the vaccine also would go up. So we caught on that one.
That's very interesting, Dr. Ella. I read a quote by Susan Hockley, President Emerita of MIT, and I think the first woman president of MIT, first biologist to head MIT. And where she says that the 20th century belonged to engineering and physics. And you saw a lot of industries being spawned by that: electronics, information technology, nuclear power, and so on. And this century, the 21st century, is going to belong to actually biology and engineering. So what are your views on that? And could you give us an example of what she's saying.
No, I 100%. I don't know how. I have to appreciate our vision statement. And I'll give few examples what the biology is going to revolutionize the globe itself. Next 2 centuries is going to be biology. There's no question about it. I'll give you an example. Many people will have skepticism whether it is true what I'm telling or not. I'll tell you a very good example. The nature has created some proteins. Now, man is going to create up proteins, what he wants. I'll give you a good example. One of the engineering you said, how engineering and protein is going to join together. The people can make a protein and that can react to the zinc oxide and make a new tunnel, a new semiconductor. I'm not talking theory now. It's been practically been done. So DNA can be linked to some of the chemical compound, and that can be made as a memory chip. The whole science is changing, and I think the structural biology, with the AlphaFold 2, AlphaFold 3, the software which is developed by Google, who got Nobel Prize, the whole software is revolutionizing the field itself. Whereas one protein to crystallize, it takes almost 4 or 5 years for somebody to crystallize a protein. Now, 200 million proteins can be solved the structure by using AlphaFold 2 and 3 structures. And what you need is just sequence, and you can predict the protein. Based on the protein structure, by using the software, now you can mutate it and make it a protein which tailor-made. If it is something this big protein, you can make a short protein, and that is more catalytic. For example, like PET bottle. You want to destroy the PET bottle protein in less than half an hour. You can make a protein that put the protein into that bottle will be just degraded within the next half hour. All man-made proteins are going to come. It's a real, whether it is ethical or non-ethical, I'm not going to question that, but science is moving in that direction that people cannot visualize. Even some medical things, they're going to make like an anti-snake, for example, snakes. Now they figured out small structure based on structure folding on the software 2. They figured out what protein structure, small structure is required to neutralize the snake venom. Now the snake venom can be used as a vaccine and protect the snake itself. Short protein. Everything is changing. It's just impossible to have a crystallization of the protein itself, snake venom. So they come out differently using a sequence data and come out a structure, and then made it to happen as anti-snake venom. And I think the medical and engineering, the semiconductors and all that, proteins are going to be part of engineering hereafter.
So, Dr. Ella, Kerala has, as I mentioned earlier, a reasonable medical device industry, very far from global scale, but good quality products are being made. These are being exported across the world. In the case of life sciences, we have nutraceuticals, where we have a presence. We have Ayurveda, fledgling biotechnology. You mentioned one of the critical success factors as entrepreneurship. I think we are now seeing a new generation, as you said, youngsters, and a lot of people who are embracing entrepreneurship in Kerala, unlike in previous generations. So that's obviously one big factor. I think you will agree that research is another big factor which will drive the success of this industry. And we do have some very strong research institutions in the state, like the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, Sri Chitra, ICER, and many others, and also some very fine university departments where there is good research work going on. How would you rate the state from your standpoint of doing national and global business? What do you think are the gaps that are currently there in Kerala, and where should Kerala focus?
You want me to be frank with you, Padma Kumar?
Frank, totally frank.
Your enemies are Kerala people only, not outsider. The Kerala people who are in Hyderabad, you will say, why don't you go to Kerala? He says, my wife doesn't want to go back to Kerala. she wants to have the city life in Hyderabad. So they'll tell, if I want to go, they'll tell, no, don't go to Kerala, don't go to Kerala. The only Kerala people talks about negative. And I think, you all have to get a positive thinking. See, no society is a perfect society. Whether you want to be in US, now you say US is also a problem. You go to UK also is a problem. So every country has got a problems. Now, it's not that it is a problem of Kerala or India or the US. So I think the people should need to look at the problem and that gives you an opportunity for entrepreneurs to succeed. Coming to your question on nutraceutical and some of the medical devices, and I think you have laid a strong foundation, particularly people like you, a very good visionary man, created such a structure. And that is going to facilitate, entrepreneurship is going to drive, for sure. That is number one. Coming to nutraceutical Ayurvedic, you have Ayurvedic as a brand, but that brand is still feeling some sort of negativity. Okay? That negativity, where it is coming, so that means we need to seriously look at it, how to bring some policy issues that can be curtailed, because you have good and bad. See, how do you curtail the bad fellow? Number one. Number two, you look at Ayurvedic, is a personalized medicine actually, earlier. You look at the history, it's a personalized medicine. You look at everybody's individual pulse rate, and they look at lifestyle of the person, and they make, according to them, mixing of the ingredient. But unfortunately, the now commercial world of Ayurvedic, they make one product for everybody. And also, the microbial load of some Ayurvedic is also dangerous. So somebody has to come out, this truly take it very serious as a product. As a product, to look at science and policy issues, and also the Ayurvedic has to be done some more clinical trial if required. In a very systematic, double-blind, placebo, double-blind, clinical trial to establish that credibility for Ayurveda. And I'm telling honestly, Chinese have done that. It's not that others have not done. Chinese have done extremely well on Ayurvedic drugs, on plant-based drugs. Military army, 70% of army has to use only herbal drug. In China, they made it mandatory. And as something it has to be done, even in the procurement in the government, even 25% of the procurement, our drugs has to be Ayurvedic drugs or something policy. But it has to be a good science has to come. Coming to nutraceutical, again, it's a wonderful, sexy name, nutraceutical and all that. But how do you build that nutraceutical science with the human? How the human and the product is interacting. That science is missing with us. If we can establish a good science, and I think we can take a leadership globally.
Thank you. We talked a little bit about the research institutions in Kerala. I mentioned Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology and Sri Chitra. We are aware of Hyderabad developing thanks to the Center for Cellular Microbiology. My question, Dr. Ella, is would Bharat Biotech consider setting up research or manufacturing in Kerala? And if so, why? If not, why not?
It's a tough question. You're making a political statements. I mean, manufacturing, creating more and more is not going to yield. So you want to compete with the biotech manufacturing with Hyderabad, Bangalore, or Gujarat, or Pune, all those things, not worth it. Each state has to find its niche. And I think what you found already medical devices are very good. I think what you can really look at it, some of the clinical trial testing material right now in the country, the clinical trial done in Bangalore, Hyderabad, they want to be tested, some of the samples, on whether it's virus neutralization studies or monoclonal antibody, physicochemical characterization, or the bioavailability of all those studies can be done in Kerala, which doesn't pollute anything, doesn't have an industrial scale. You don't compete with other states at all in that game. Look at CAR-T cell therapy. There's so much medical institutes in the Kerala, a lot of medical colleges, and all well-funded. Many of them Dubai-funded medical colleges are there. They have so much money. And I think, can we focus that into little CAR-T cell therapy where, again, you don't compete with others? You need to find a niche. Okay, Hyderabad has created a manufacturing facility. Let's copy that. is not worth it. Okay? Do we go to chemical industry? I won't recommend any chemical industry for Kerala. Pollute the environment. What has happened to Baddi in Himachal Pradesh? Destroyed. Because of excise duty exemption, the entire Baddi was destroyed. Now Uttaranchal, Darjeeling area, destroyed. Sikkim, destroyed. Because of the excise duty waiver, the chemical industries, all pharma companies have gone there. They destroyed the environment itself. You don't want to destroy environment of Kerala. Rather, you should focus on industry which are niche. And as I said, Ayurvedic is good, medical device is good, and nutraceutical is good, and your CAR-T cell therapy, clinical testing material, and clinical trial, biostatistics program, all those things can be done. There's so much of opportunity. But we are not looking at it. We are trying to copy from, again, one kind of state to another state is not right.
We're coming to the end of this little fireside chat, Dr. Ella, so I have just a couple of questions more in conclusion. One, there are life sciences and medical device companies in Kerala who aspire to become national and global players. What is your advice to them? Are there one or two must-do things that they must focus on if they have to achieve their ambition?
I think whatever they are dreaming, that's the right dream. And you have medical device, one advantage you have, less regulatory compared to the vaccine field. Number one. Number two, what is important? Quality. Quality, quality, quality. That's a very critical because it is going to cardiac patient. You don't want to hurt somebody. With less quality, you don't want to hurt that. And I think you need to be cautious about it. And if they can build a quality and they're confident, and then again you want to compete with Johnson & Johnson, no, there's some strategic material. You can coat with something else on this cardiac, whatever it is, the medical device, something else can coat, which can be anticoagulant, whatever it is required, some new ideas. And somebody can introduce that. You can be innovative and still compete globally better way. And I think these simple strategies, and if they focus on quality and the regulatory aspect of it, I think they can be a global player. It's easier to be global player in a medical device compared to the vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. Ella. I think that is excellent advice and we take it to heart. I'd like to conclude by asking, what is your advice now to the government of Kerala to help the state achieve its vision of becoming a true knowledge economy with life sciences and medical devices as one of the key pillars?
I think Kerala was sleeping all these years. They just woke up now. So they woke up a little late, but not too late. Okay? I think other states have woke up much earlier. Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Maharashtra, Gujarat. All of them woke up much earlier, but Kerala has woke up. And I think I have to appreciate the government, to be frank with you. Okay? You look at Chief Minister. He was there day for yesterday night also, 2 nights. I don't think I've seen any Chief Minister staying they'll come for inauguration for half an hour, meet their MLAs and go. And I think, that clearly shows seems to be political commitment is there. And that's the most important. Look at Rajiv, the industry minister, he's still hanging around there. Still drinking coffee. I think every hour he's drinking coffee there. So I think that shows that, serious commitment. The government is serious. I've seen so many meetings in my life, 25 years, so many states. Even 2 weeks back, I was in Gujarat also, where it's a invest meeting. So I think there seems to be a serious interest. And good people like you, good IAS secretary, Anishka, all those people, all are good here. They're proactive. But how do you put together now? And I think if something doesn't happen, you have to blame the entrepreneurs and you blame the Kerala people, not others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ella. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and a privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you. What an insightful conversation into the promise that the future holds. And to present a token of our appreciation to Dr. Krishna Ella, I'd like to bring on stage the chairperson of KSIDC, Mr. C. Balagopal. Welcome, sir. We have a truly visionary scientist and entrepreneur on stage who just spoke to us, whom the country has honored with the Padma Bhushan. And under his leadership, Bharat Biotech has delivered over 4 billion vaccines across 123 countries, establishing itself as a global leader. Joining them on stage, Dr. Sanjay Behari, Director of Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Sciences and Technology. He has a distinguished career in neurosurgery and has contributed significantly to medical research and education. Welcome, Dr. Sanjay. Joining them, Mr. Thomas John, Managing Director of Agape Diagnostics, a company which specializes in vitro diagnostics. He has over 30 years of experience in the medical diagnostics industry, and under his leadership, Agape has grown significantly, expanding its product range and market presence. And completing the panel, Dr. Vilu Morawala Patel, founder and CMD of Avastha Gen Limited. Hearty welcome on stage, ma'am. A PhD in molecular biology from the University of Strasbourg. She has led significant research initiatives, including the Avastha Genome Project, and has received numerous awards for her contributions to medical sciences technology. That completes our panel. Yes. Over to you, Mr. C. Padmakumar, to steer the conversation. Yes, we have one more panelist joining us on stage. The name got missed out in my list somehow. Mr. John Kuriakos, an inspiring figure in the field of dentistry and dental technology. Yes, you're here. Apologies for that, sir. Hearty welcome on stage. Someone who started with a humble beginning and made a pioneering success story. Happy to have you here on stage, sir. He expanded DentKS operations to multiple countries across the globe, a success story that's inspirational to all of us. Hearty welcome, and over to you, Mr. Padmakumar.
Thank you. So after that stimulating conversation with Dr. Krishna Ella, I have this stellar panel, and I'm looking forward to a very good discussion on this provocative theme that we have today: what makes Kerala the perfect hub for medical devices and life sciences. This may be, of course, contested by other states, but we will stick to our guns, at least till the end of this discussion, when we may hear that it is either yes or no. So, but we're leaving that open. Let me take a minute to quickly introduce our panel. Since time is short and we have 5 people, I'm going to keep the introductory remarks also equally crisp. We have Mr. Alok Medikepura Anil, founder of Next Big Innovation Labs. His company is focusing on 3D bioprinting. He has actually a very long, distinguished profile, but I am going to spare the audience that because of the interest of time. Dr. Sanjay Behari, Director, Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Sciences and Technology, I think needs no introduction to a Kerala audience. Sri Chitra is extremely well known, and we have seen what Dr. Behari has done for the Institute in the last 3 years, both in the field of medical care and in the area of technology development, where I think he has brought the Institute back to its original glory. Mr. Thomas John, Managing Director of Agape Diagnostics, the fastest growing IVD company in India, a global player with global ambitions, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about his views and his plans. Dr. Mrs. Vilu Morawala Patel, who is the founder and chairman of Avastha Gen Limited, one of the pioneers in the biotechnology industry. And we have Mr. John Kuriakos, the founder of DentCare, which is one of Asia's leading dental materials companies based right here in Kerala. So we have, as you can see, a nice mix of life sciences, medtech, and we have somebody who represents both healthcare delivery as well as technology development, namely the director of the Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute. Today's panel discussion, I thought, would focus just on one thing. which is life sciences and medical devices have one thing in common. They appear to succeed globally on the basis of clusters. You have the Boston Life Sciences Cluster, you've got the Bay Area Life Sciences and MedTech Cluster, you have the Kobe Biomedical Device Cluster, the Hsinchu Science Park in Taiwan, many others. You've got the Irish MedTech Cluster. So all of these are actually a combination of research, academia, industry, hospitals, working together. Now in India, we have actually all these different elements. What is missing is, the question, do they actually work together? And I'm sure the panel will have something to say about that. So I'd like to start by putting this question to Mr. Thomas John. What do you think are the critical success factors which have helped some of these clusters develop globally? And could you also share your views with specific reference to any cluster?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Patnakumar, for keeping me in this panel. As a prominent manufacturer of medical device, I'm happy to share my views. Now, coming to the cluster, in India we have so-called lot of industrial park, medical device park. But when we talk about Boston, the medical cluster, or Kobe in Japan, or Taiwan, or in Bay Area in US again, they're all working very closely with basically three things. The cluster is a place where they develop. There is a strong partnership with the development agencies or universities. For example, Bay Area, they work very close with Stanford University, and Boston, even the famous institutions like MIT and even Harvard, and even Kobe also. So they work very closely with research institutions. Secondly, they have a very good systems to take this research to the actual product, which can they help to commercialize. That sort of system which they have. Then again, the governmental agencies, they give a very good support. For example, US, both the clusters, what we are talking, US FDA, in case of medical device, US FDA, they closely work with them and support the companies which they are working. Even same case in Taiwan and even Japan. And finally, the finance side, because the clusters always, they support by, they work very closely with a VC fund or private equity, where the funding to the requirement of commercializing to the ideal parties and support them. And it is not just money alone, because they give full support in terms of regulations, they give full support in legal terms, and so that the cluster takes full responsibility to bring up the products to the market and success of this product. Unfortunately, in India so far, definitely there are medical device parks and all, but they give lot of support in terms of arranging the basic needs in terms of the R&D, or in terms of the testing device, in terms of the basic infrastructure. But I would say that this sort of a close equilibrium is missing here. So that is the basic difference of Indian so-called medical device park and the international clusters. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And Dr. Bihari, my question to you is, the Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology actually laid the foundations for the development of the medical device industry in the country when it was set up by the government of Kerala in 1976. Trivandrum, I would not call it a full-fledged cluster yet, but it looks as if it has many of the makings of the cluster. And as the person heading the most crucial institution in the country, which is doing research in this area, could you tell us where you think there are some gaps, and what are the things that we seem to be doing right, especially in Trivandrum?
Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege for me to be here. I'd like to kind of break it up into a few parts. First of all, I have the unique distinction of not being from Kerala and yet being a person from Kerala. So that's the first point. And so I can very objectively look at the whole thing. First of all, I've never seen any other state where so much of emphasis is placed on science, technology, and innovation in the country. There are industries, focused industries, but the ecosystem is totally geared up for making sure that a lot of entrepreneurs actually develop. The second is I have a unique distinction of being from the government organizations. And I can tell you, this medical device policy only came up 2 years ago. It just started 2 years ago. And already there is an absolute revolution. I'm traveling all over the country. And there's an absolute revolution. I can predict that in 5 years' time, there's a completely different scenario which will be prevalent in India because of this. In 2 years, it has completely dramatically changed. From the government's perspective, I can tell you of 2, 3 very interesting things which have happened. The first of them is that government has said that even for educational institutions, technology institutions, which are purely academic, which were supposed to be, the holy cows where industry would not come in. The presidents and the CEOs are now supposed to be the CEOs of private organizations. Like the present president of Sri Chitra is Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan, the founder of Infosys. So there's a dramatic change. Then another big policy which has come up in a big way at the Department of Science and Technology is that there is an Anusandhan Kosh which has just been started, and Sarb has been mixed in the Anusandhan Kosh. And here the important thing which is coming up is that this is going to be invested in private companies. A significant share of the government money is now going to be invested in private companies. It's a huge dramatic change in the entire thing. Now coming back to my institute, it's like probably the only institute where the ventriculoperitoneal shunt is been implanted in close to, almost 10,000-15,000 patients. The Chitra heart valve has been implanted in 2 lakh patients, and the second generation we have just implanted in 40 patients and without any deficit. The third very important innovation is the blood bag. Every hospital in the country, whatever blood bag is being made, and I think we have the 2 illustrious people, Mr. Bal Gopal, Mr. Padma Kumar, who have actually researched it. And every single blood bag in India is a research product of Sri Chitra as well as the Turumo Penpal company, which is there. The osteomyelitis, in vivo osteomyelitis, just to tell you one small thing, in medical devices, there are 2 types of products. One are in vivo products, high risk in vivo products, which are class C and D products. They take a long time to develop, and you have to test them very meticulously just to make sure that they're very safe. The second type of products are in vitro products, which most of the biotech companies are making, which are spot diagnosis and things which do not actually get implanted into human beings. Now, what we have to do in the entire state and the country is to have an admixture of both in vitro and in vivo products being made together, and so that some products can be immediately translated fast, and some products will obviously take more time because they are deep tech products, which will take 7 to 10 years to develop. Now, when you have a mixture of them, then there is a sense of achievement every year, and there is nothing more intoxicating than achievement. It is more intoxicating than morphine, I think, a sense of achievement. Thank you.
Thank you. Alok, I'd like to ask you, since your company is doing a lot of work with global organizations, you're doing some work with the World Economic Forum also, you have experience of some of the clusters that we mentioned, the global clusters. What do you think are the critical success factors for these clusters?
No, thanks for having me today. So our company primarily is in the manufacturing of potentially what will be a medical device today, there's no classification for this, a bioprinter, and you can go downstream into creating applications that are very patient specific. So I'm very excited to hear that Kerala's 15% of India's sort of medtech ecosystem is sort of coming from right here in Kerala, which is great given the size of the state and the sort of the intent to grow. So looking at Sir's question on the various clusters, I think every country has seen the sort of phase of industrialization, and sort of the bio-evolution has come to India quite late. Of course, we were successful in the biosimilars market, but where is the real bio-innovation that is coming out of India? So we're at a very interesting time period when now the state government and the central governments, many state governments, and of course our central government is looking at bio more seriously. We've had the government come up with the Bio E3 policy, which is focused on bio employment, the economy as well as the environment. So a lot of solutions that governments want to solve rest in bio, and I'm glad they're understanding it. So then you have India, sort of a mixture of various states fighting for good business. They have state level policies coming in, supporting this Bio E3 policy, which is a good starting point. Coming back to the question on the various sort of clusters internationally, whether it's in the US, it's in the UK, I think they sort of capitalize on certain areas of biotech at the right time, and that ship has sailed. But what we look forward to in India is the next phase of the biotech revolution, which we foresee. Of course, there's a lot of talk about AI right now, but like I just basically mentioned, a lot of solutions for things that we need, whether it is bioagri, whether it is biofuels, whether it is looking at bioprinting that basically has a direct impact on personalized medicine, all rest in the term bio. And what can India do? What can the central, the state governments do to enable entrepreneurs to call India home, to not look at maybe setting up base elsewhere? So that is sort of the core policy related support that we require from the government. And I'm glad that centers like your Kerala Medical Technology Consortium are set up to enable and facilitate this sort of arrangement between the private sector, the government, as well as research institutions. So with that being said, I think the real value and the advantage rests in how we are able to look at the core technologies, the convergence. We're at a very interesting era of technology convergence. 3D printing is about 30 years old, but why is bioprinting so sort of sought after today is because we've had 3D printing, we've had material science, we have a mixture of software, we've had cell biology all come together, converge and create disruptive solutions which today are very important to the pharma sector, to the life sciences sector, and also to governments, because considerable amount of every state government's GDP goes into healthcare. And what if we could indigenously create solutions which are low cost and serviceable to the people? That solves a lot of government's problems. And the second step of making India export oriented, the Make in India story, the sort of build for the world story, that could come out of states like Kerala, and that I believe is the true potential of what we can do. And with medical devices, I think it's a great niche to have, because it's a very high value industry, and it's largely, when you look at globally, controlled by the big players. Whether you're looking at Philips, Siemens, whether you're going into implants, Stryker, it's largely controlled by limited number of players. And there is still a lot of scope, because let's not look at maybe the US as a market or the UK as a market. Let's look at the entire continent of Asia. Let's look at maybe Africa. They're on the lookout for more affordable, clinically relevant, proven technology, and that could be India's sort of success story, is building for the rest of the world beyond the first tier markets, affordable medical devices tech. And for that, entrepreneurs such as ourselves, our company is ready to contribute. There's a considerable amount of support we would require from government, because there's a lot of interaction we need to have with the regulatory bodies, which we cannot do ourselves running a company. So that's when the state government can create a bridge, help us sort of regulate our products, help us take it to market, and help us create market opportunities in other countries where we could sort of successfully talk about the Make in India story. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, Dr. Patel, We've talked about global clusters, etc., but we have two very successful clusters in India itself, Bangalore and Hyderabad, and you are, I think, present in both. Would you tell us your assessment of why are they successful, and why is it that we don't see that replicated in other parts of India?
I think each of them has a special story. I mean, and it comes from within. And oh, sorry, is this word? Yeah. Thank you for the question, and very happy to be here among such a eclectic crowd and the members on the stage. And the possibilities are enormous everywhere. But what happened? I mean, let's start in a way with my own journey, because I think Avesta Jain first broke ground in the concept of innovation in this country, that it would innovate using Indian biodiversity as a basis of innovation. And I was in Hyderabad, I mean, I came back from Europe in Hyderabad, and there was something forming there. The ICICI Knowledge Park, the CCMB was there, ICRISAT was there, but it was not amalgamating, it was not building. Although the early starts were there, as you see here now, you know, it is happening, and maybe here it is a little more advanced, but they were still waiting for that entrepreneur to come, to lead it. And so there has to be a one or two entrepreneur. It doesn't even have to be, but with sizable vision to pull the entire story together, and the ecosystem builds automatically around it. So Hyderabad was still forming, and I was told by Dr. Anji Reddy of Reddy's Lab, people like you will go to Bangalore because their ideas are heard. So that's how I landed up in Bangalore. And so there were Indian Institute of Science, the National Center for Biological Sciences, the institutions. So I say around an entrepreneur, the entrepreneur is very important, as even Krishna Ella said. The entrepreneur is critical, and they are to initiate the energy of a cluster. Maybe, you know, like Amgen, Genentech in the Bay Area, or in Boston you had the many other, you know, large a couple of entrepreneurs came and built the initial industry, started it, and around them, I would say the first circle is really educational institution. Top line institutions have to be there. So in Bangalore, you had that cluster. You had IISc, you had NCBS, just burgeoning, and many other surrounding. And you had the aeronautics institutions, you had HAL. I mean, there was just that feeling that you could talk about a crazy idea and people would listen to you, you know, and give you that push to move on. And also the government was fantastic at that time. That was S.M. Krishna, and he had a chief secretary called Vivek Kulkarni. They were just such doers. I mean, they pushed you along. And they made sure the vision policy came out. I mean, we were involved in the writing of the vision policy. This was 2001, the first vision policy of biotechnology in India. And then the vision group was formed. I mean, it was just that momentum. The 2000-2001 of Bangalore was incredibly energetic, and it built the cluster around it. It built, people popped up, this Strand came, I was there, and then other companies started around, Genotypic, etc. So I think it takes the entrepreneur, it takes the political goodwill, and it takes the, you know, the people have to be global. So the mindset has to be completely global. And it is not about, you know, you're based here. This is your place, but you're dealing with the world from day one. I mean, that is extremely important. So you're competing, you should compete on the same grounds at the global level. And networks, the networks are incredibly important. And that's how you start rising as an industry. And I think I mean, if you look at Hyderabad, it's really manufacturing focused even today. There's no hard R&D and CDMO focused. So the history is dictating the kind of companies that are coming up there. So if you look at Hyderabad, it was always a big generic manufacturing place. So the industry is gravitating towards manufacturing and contract manufacturing and contract research. So there are huge units there. I mean, really world class. And while Bangalore still continues to be the R&D enterprise and R&D, they're going into diagnosis. So the outcomes of their years of research are coming out now in many ways. And there'll be, again, a burgeoning new industry coming up in Bangalore, which will be medtech focused, robotic focused, and also prediction, prevention, precision. I think that story is going to come out of Bangalore. And while Kerala, I see, is a great opportunity today. It's the this conference is a black swan event in the life science industry of Kerala, I think. And you will see tremendous growth here, tremendous also from the prediction and prevention side, because you have already historically the bioactive story extracts, plant-based stories here, and that is the future. I mean, even those plant-based extracts linked to diagnosis will drive the prediction, prevention, as well as you have hospitals and entrepreneurs here who can drive it to the next level. I think this will predominantly be the prediction prevention story here, and which can be pushed out at a global level, mind you. Don't go for just Kerala or India and all. It's go global from day one, and I think it's all possible. People are here, clever, smart. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. So if I understood correctly, the recipe seems to be add entrepreneur, strong research foundation, a dash of policy support from the government, and a global outlook, and voila, you should get the...
I forgot one more thing, financials.
Finance. I knew there was a catch.
Venture capital industry, I mean, there are so many large, companies here. Create that fund, and pump it in. Don't forget about it. The other day I was in a conference and, Reed Jobs, he's Steve Jobs' son, and he got some 400 million, 500 million to just push it into pancreatic cancer study. And he said he just gave away, to any smart young person, young or old, but with bright eyes and bushy-tailed, and who had an idea. He just gave away the money, knowing that maybe 90% would fail. Take a risk and don't don't punish the person who fails. Let him rise again or her rise again. So I think that is, if you can create that, I can tell you this place will go further than Bangalore and Hyderabad too.
Thank you for that vote of confidence. I'd now like to ask Mr. John Kuriakose. Mr. Kuriakose, from scratch in dent care, ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു വലിയൊരു സ്ഥാപനമായിട്ട് മാറിയിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഏഷ്യയിലെ തന്നെ വലിയൊരു ഡെൻറ്റൽ മെറ്റീരിയൽ സപ്ലയറാണ്. ഗ്ലോബൽ മാർക്കറ്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരും പറയുന്നത് കേരളത്തിൽ അങ്ങനെ ഈ മാനുഫാക്ചറിങ് കുറച്ച് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണെന്നുള്ളതാണ്. എന്താണ് മിസ്റ്റർ കുര്യാക്കോസിൻ്റെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ്, ആൻഡ് അതിൽ നിന്നുള്ള നമുക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും പാഠം പഠിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുമോ?
തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കേരളം വ്യവസായത്തിന് പറ്റിയ സ്ഥലമല്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നവരോട് എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളത്, കേരളം പോലെ വ്യവസായത്തിന് പറ്റിയ മണ്ണില്ലെന്നാണ്. എൻ്റെ 37 വർഷത്തെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസിൽ കേരളത്തിലെ മനുഷ്യർ ഏറ്റവും നല്ല ഹ്യൂമൻ റിസോഴ്സസ് ഉള്ള ഒരു സംസ്ഥാനമാണ് കേരളം. ആത്മാർത്ഥതയുള്ള ജോലിക്കാർ. ഏതൊരു കാര്യം പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാലും അതെല്ലാം നമ്മളെക്കാൾ വളരെ ഉത്സാഹത്തോടെ ചെയ്യുന്നവരായ ജോലിക്കാരാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു സ്വത്ത്. ഞാൻ തുടങ്ങുമ്പോൾ ഞാനൊരു കുഗ്രാമത്തിൽ ജനിച്ച മനുഷ്യനാണ്. കേവലം ഒരു ചെറിയ മുറിയിൽ 298 സ്ക്വയർ ഫീറ്റിലാണ് ഞാൻ 6 ജോലിക്കാർ വെച്ച് 88-ൽ ഡെൻകെയർ തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. ഞാൻ കേവലം ഒരു റബ്ബർ വെട്ടുകാരനായിട്ടാണ് ജീവിതം ആരംഭിച്ചത്. ഒരു അറ്റൻഡറായിട്ടാണ് ഞാനൊരു ഡെൻ്റൽ ക്ലിനിക്കിൽ വന്നത്. എനിക്ക് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് സ്വപ്നങ്ങളൊന്നും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല. എന്നാൽ അന്ന് ആ കാലങ്ങളിൽ ഇന്ത്യയിലാകെ 2 സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളേ ഉള്ളൂ പല്ലുണ്ടാക്കുന്നത്. അവിടെ പല്ലുണ്ടാക്കിക്കൊണ്ട് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ വായിൽ ഫിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വളരെ പ്രയാസമുള്ളൊരു പണിയായിരുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ മനസ്സിലൊരു സ്വപ്നം, ചിലതെല്ലാം ഫിറ്റാവുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു സ്ഥാപനം തുടങ്ങണമെന്നുള്ളൊരാഗ്രഹം. എനിക്ക് അന്ന് 250 രൂപ മാസം ശമ്പളമുള്ളൂ. ഒരു സ്ഥാപനം തുടങ്ങണമെങ്കിൽ 20 ലക്ഷം രൂപ വേണം. ഞാൻ പക്ഷെ നിരാശപ്പെട്ടില്ല. ഞാൻ ദൈവത്തിൽ ആശ്രയിച്ച് അധ്വാനിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങി. കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു. 6 ജോലിക്കാരെ വെച്ച് 20 ലക്ഷം രൂപ 15 ലക്ഷം രൂപ ലോൺ എടുത്തു. കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട് അധ്വാനിച്ച് ഏതാണ്ട് 5 ലക്ഷം രൂപയോളം മുടക്കി. അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഡെൻകെയർ തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. പിന്നീട് ഞാൻ ധാരാളം യാത്രകൾ നടത്തി. ലോകത്തെല്ലാം എന്തെല്ലാം പുതിയ പുതിയ ടെക്നോളജികൾ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നുണ്ട്, എന്തെല്ലാം ഉണ്ട്, അതെല്ലാം കാണാനായിട്ട് പോയി. അപ്പോഴെൻ്റെ കണ്ണ് തുറപ്പിച്ചു. ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളോട് എല്ലാവരോടും പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, ഒരിക്കലും നാം വ്യവസായം തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട് യാത്ര ചെയ്യാതിരിക്കരുത്, കോൺഫറൻസുകൾ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യാതിരിക്കരുത്. നമ്മിൽ പലരും, ഞാൻ ആരെയും കുറ്റപ്പെടുത്തി പറയുകയല്ല, കുളത്തിൽ കിടക്കുന്ന തവളകളെ പോലെയാണ് നമ്മൾ യാത്ര ചെയ്യുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ. ഞാൻ യാത്ര ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങി, എൻ്റെ കണ്ണ് തുറന്നു. ശരിക്കും ധാരാളം അവസരങ്ങളുണ്ടെന്ന് എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാനിടയായി. ഏറ്റവും ലേറ്റസ്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള, ഏറ്റവും സൊഫിസ്റ്റിക്കേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള മെഷീനറികളും എക്യുപ്മെൻസും എല്ലാം കൊണ്ടുവരാനിടയായി. ഘട്ടം ഘട്ടമായിട്ട് എല്ലാം ഇന്ന് ലോകത്തിൽ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, ഇന്ന് ലോകത്തിൽ ഡെൻറ്റിസ്ട്രിയിൽ കിട്ടാവുന്ന എന്തെല്ലാം പ്രോസസ്സ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നു അതെല്ലാം നമ്മുടെ ഈ കൊച്ചു കേരളത്തിൽ മൂവാറ്റുപുഴയിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കുമെന്നുള്ളത് സത്യമായ യാഥാർത്ഥ്യമാണ്. ഞാനന്ന് കേവലം 250 രൂപ ശമ്പളത്തിനാണ് മൂവാറ്റുപുഴയിൽ അറ്റൻഡറായിട്ട് ജോലിയിൽ പ്രവേശിച്ചത്. എന്നാൽ ഇന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് 4200 ജോലിക്കാരുണ്ട്. ഒരു മാസം ശമ്പളം കൊടുക്കാൻ 11 കോടി രൂപ വേണം. ദൈവം എല്ലാം അത്ഭുതകരമായി നടത്തി. ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളോട് പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, ഇന്ന് ഏറ്റവും നല്ല അവസരമാണ് വ്യവസായം തുടങ്ങുവാൻ. ഞാനന്ന് തുടങ്ങിയ കാലത്ത് കേവലം 15% സബ്സിഡിക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് 14 പ്രാവശ്യം ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയൽ ഓഫീസ് കയറി ഇറങ്ങി. എന്നാൽ ഇന്ന് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് നമ്മുടെ മിനിസ്റ്റർ, രാജീവ് മിനിസ്റ്ററെ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അഭിനന്ദിക്കേണ്ടതാണ്. ഏതൊരു കാര്യം അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് പറഞ്ഞാലും ഏറ്റവും നല്ല മനസ്സോടുകൂടി, പോസിറ്റീവ് തിങ്കറാണ് അദ്ദേഹം. ഏത് കാര്യത്തിനും അദ്ദേഹം പരിഹാരം ഉണ്ടാക്കി തരുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹം എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും കേരളം ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് വളരെ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. ഇന്ന് വ്യവസായത്തിന് പറ്റിയ ഏറ്റവും നല്ല അന്തരീക്ഷമാണ് നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലുള്ളത്. ഇന്ന് വ്യവസായം തുടങ്ങി നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വിജയിപ്പിക്കാൻ കഴിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇനി ഇതിലും പറ്റിയൊരു അവസരം ഉണ്ടാകുമെന്ന് ചിന്തിക്കരുതെന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ ഒരു അഭിപ്രായം.
Thank you, Mr. Kuriakose. For those who don't follow Malayalam, very quick translation. Mr. John Kuriakose started his career as an assistant, a dental assistant in a clinic for 250 rupees a month salary. Now he runs a very big company. His monthly bill, the salary bill is 11 crores. He employs hundreds of people and he exports across the globe. And I think the key takeaways from what he said were: one, the people of Kerala, the human resources are the biggest asset. He feels that there's nothing quite like it. Two, he says everything he learned from travel. He went across the world. That opened his eyes, and which is where he got his access to technology. So now they make the latest and the best products. And I think these are very big lessons. And he's also very happy with the environment, the business environment which is there today. We still have a little bit of time left, but being conscious of the time, I want to do one round. I'd like to go around. And I'm going to ask each panelist the same question. And irrespective of background, I'll start with Thomas. What is the one thing that you think industry should focus on to succeed globally?
Yeah, today, thanks for this question. Today, Kerala is famous for two things: tourism and IT. How that success came? Probably 30 or 35 years ago, Kerala was one of the first state which start focusing on tourism by appointing or by making as a separate ministry. Same case with IT. Kerala was one of the first state who started focusing and a separate ministry. I would say that today the medical device industry is 11 billion. That is going to, by 2047, it's going to be 50 billion, where today Kerala is about 15% Kerala is managing, and there is a possibility of 50% for this share in 2047. For that, I think there is high time to make a separate ministry of medical device itself is required. That is point number one. Then second, there are a lot of industry academia partnership which is required, so that, because Kerala is very famous for the best academic institutions. So bringing a lot of international institutions here, international university here, and a lot of that sort of work together can bring the medical device industry to the next level. These are the two things I wanted to tell.
Thank you, Thomas. Dr. Bihari, my question is, in Chitra, you have been dealing with a lot of industry. You have transferred technologies to industry, so I think you have a very good vantage point. And you would have seen some companies do well, some are maybe not doing so well. So what do you think is the thing they should focus on to successfully innovate and commercialize technologies?
So thank you. Actually, what I have realized is you cannot actually focus on any particular aspect of medical device in its isolation. You have to actually look at everything together: the research, engineering, the design, the commercialization, the regulatory authorities, and final making sure that once it is commercialized, it is safe. So I have a 12-point program. It's not going to be very fast, but I just want you to, just very short and brief I'll be. First of all is immersive end-user experience, both from industry to research and from research to industry. That's the first thing. The second important thing is having different sections and focusing on each one of them. For example, from idea to prototype, from prototype to testing, from testing to translation, from translation to commercialization, and then from post-commercialization, safety. So these have to be specifically addressed with specific people. That's the second point. The third important point is there are so many entrepreneurs in the state, and they get lost in the valleys of death. And these two valleys of death one is they make a prototype and they don't have anyone to actually take it forward to. And the second valley of death is after the entire testing and everything is done, then the industry doesn't want it. So these two valleys of death have to be addressed. That's the next point. The next point is, rather than giving money like this, we have almost a 30% translation and a commercialization rate in Sri Chitra. And how we do is hand-holding. This hand-holding is very important because as a surgeon, I can tell you, you can't start operating immediately on a patient. You need at least 13 years it took me to actually become a basic neurosurgeon. And another 10 years to actually start doing very advanced neurosurgery. Now, for a person who's an entrepreneur, he has to understand science, research, legal, finances, teamwork, managing personnel, understanding regulatory framework. And so for one person to be understanding everything is nearly impossible. And that hand-holding is required. The other important thing is I'm so proud to be amidst so many entrepreneurs from India. The problem is that most of the international companies, what they will do is they will buy these strong prototypes and suppress them. Or they will make sure that the product is not bought at all. So this is one area that we need to address. Then another very important thing is the end user is the doctor or the ICMR scientist or somebody who actually needs the product. Now the problem is there is no Section 8 company for doctors and ICMR scientists. And once you have Section 8 companies coming here, and once you have all these things coming into your medical colleges, this ecosystem, then certainly the end user experience will come into making of devices, which will certainly hasten the devices. Another very important thing is, what people are not understanding now is that whatever prototype you make, the testing has to be done with industry. This is the now legal framework says that the testing has to be done with industry. So the sooner we recognize it, the better it is for us. Then another very important thing is, everybody is duplicating the same devices. We need a centralized portal that, okay, this is our device, this is what we have made, this is where somebody else can also make it. They can collaborate together. But we need a centralized portal of information, either at DST level, DBT level, state government level, which can actually make people understand what this important thing is. Another thing is, we need more centers for specific testing of specific devices. Each one of them, biological devices require a different testing. In vivo devices require a separate testing, and we don't have sufficient centers for them. Sri Chitra, the center is COFRAC, France accredited, but it's for a very specific group of devices. Then finally, very important thing is, we need some regulatory, kind of revisions. For example, any device which is actually given to a human being, we need CDSU approval, and then we need ICMR to decide which centers it needs to go to, and the ICMR will decide those centers. This is a very important aspect that needs to be done. And finally, there are two more small points. The time required. People don't realize that for an in vivo device, the time required, the minimum time required is 10 years, and at every stage, you need a lot of funding. So in any ecosystem that you are developing, should actually focus on funding for at least 10 years. And finally, I'd like to tell you one small thing, which we are seriously lacking in the education system of India. That is, we are not understanding that biology, applied biology, bioinformatics, and computer science has kind of penetrated into every aspect of medical device making. But our institutions are sadly missing this important component from our studies. These are some important areas which need to be developed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bihar. Alok, I'm putting the same question to you. What do you think? And here I'm only talking not about the government or any other part of the whole ecosystem. Just what should industry focus on if we are to get to global markets?
No, I think beyond what Dr. Sanjay has added, generally I think industry, the loop of R&D never ends, especially in a highly competitive, highly sort of IP-driven industry like ours. That loop always needs to be maintained, for which there are two things. You either build out a strong R&D division within your own for-profit entity and dedicate a large amount of R&D, or you partner with the ecosystem, which is basically government-run or private sector academia. So that bridge of creating those sort of collaborations and then translating that into market is what we are doing right now, where we have built out indigenously 3D bioprinting tech, but the value is only a small element. The bigger value comes when you create applications from this. And we know we can't create it ourselves. That's why our intent is to partner with the bright minds that we have in academia and guide them, having that industry experience to say that let's work towards an industry problem that we can solve. Here is our tech, and bring in sort of your skill sets into this picture, and let's translate this into the market. And India, like I mentioned earlier, we have a very clear strategic advantage of building things at low cost. If we bring in ICMR, CDSO into the discussions and get the regulatory part right, we are competing with the best medical devices companies in the world. I don't see any reason why we can't do that. And cost, again, is an important element in everything today. So we have that clear advantage, and we have the manpower, and the entire story of Make in India is there. Today we're seeing Make in India more focused on defense, automotive. So medical devices also, we need that push, and state governments like Kerala can also say, let's make Kerala a hub for medical device manufacturing. So global companies also, we welcome them to come manufacture in India. That creates an ecosystem for even local entrepreneurs to thrive. So I think that, I feel, is the industry academia bit which we need to focus on.
Thank you. Dr. Patel, Avastajan has been very successful in global markets. And what do you think industry should be focusing on?
We success is a relative term. And if you look at the first part, yes, we were successful in selling an idea to the global markets, finding global partners. So the entire journey of innovation, biodiversity, was driven by early partnerships. And those basically also go for a while, and it raised substantial capital in that and brought it to a stage of the product. And that's where the cycle changes with your partner. So this total reliance on global partnerships, or Indian partnerships too, for that matter, has to shift, and you have to take your product all the way to the market. So I think, we have products in diagnostics and pharma, as well as in nutrition, nutraceuticals, and climate change crops. We have got 4 major pipelines besides the Avesta Genome Project. So you have to decide now, what are you going to focus? What's your core? At this stage, I'm looking at my plethora of products and technologies, and I'm saying, what is the future of Avestagen, and where are we going to focus? And we realize that we are really in an innovation company. But we have a good brand, and we need to be in the market. Our brand is recognized in the market as a solid science, clean story. So we decided that we remain upstream in R&D. We will constantly innovate, constantly be at the cutting edge. So we don't move from that moment in time. But the products which are ready, we don't manufacture. We don't do sales. But we remain in the joint marketing with a partner, with a strategic partner who will but retain our brand in the market. So what I find is that our science is providing support to the marketing companies, the sales and marketing, who are already selling huge numbers of products in the market. They have a market, but they need science. Their products are stalling. So we bring the new product out there, and we partner them, and thereby enter the markets globally. At the global level. So you have to be able to be flexible. There's no hardwired. It's very fluid. Especially today, the world is extremely fluid, and anybody, sort of setting up a hardwired framework will fail disastrously. So while keeping your core competency very strong and always there, market, and depending, where you stand as a brand, you partner it out, partner the brand. People pay for it. Yeah. And so that's how it is. And you pick up the royalty after in that game. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kuriakos, നമ്മുടെ അവസാനത്തെ ചോദ്യമാണ്, ഗ്ലോബൽ മാർക്കറ്റിൽ നമുക്ക് സക്സീഡ് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ ഏതായിരിക്കും ഏറ്റവും നമ്മൾ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യം? എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം?
ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യം ഞങ്ങളെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ പ്രോഡക്റ്റിൻ്റെ ക്വാളിറ്റിക്ക് പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുത്ത് ചെയ്യുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഞങ്ങൾ ഈ മൂവാറ്റുപുഴയിൽ തുടങ്ങി കേവലം 2 പ്രോഡക്റ്റ്സ് വെച്ചാണ് തുടങ്ങിയത്. ഇന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് 450 പ്രോഡക്റ്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വേൾഡ് വൈഡ്, ഈ വേൾഡിൽ നിന്ന് എവിടുന്നും, ഈ ലോകത്തിൽ 1-ാം സ്ഥാനത്താണ് ഞങ്ങൾ ക്വാളിറ്റിയിൽ. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് മാനുഫാക്ചറിങ് യൂണിറ്റ് UK-ലും USA-ലും ഓസ്ട്രേലിയയിലും ന്യൂസിലൻഡിലും UAE-ലും എല്ലാം ഉണ്ട്. എന്നാൽ ക്വാളിറ്റിക്ക് പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുത്ത് ഞങ്ങൾ ക്രൗൺ ആൻഡ് ബിഡ്സ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, ഈ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ്സ് എല്ലാം ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഞങ്ങൾക്കൊരിക്കലും ചെയ്താൽ തീരാത്ത മാതിരി വർക്കുകൾ, ധാരാളം ഓർഡേഴ്സ് വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ഞാൻ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ടൂറിസം മേഖലയ്ക്ക് ഒന്നുകൂടെ പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, ഇപ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്നതിൽ പലരും ഡെൻകെയറിൻ്റെ പല്ല് വെച്ചവരായിരിക്കും. എന്നാൽ വേൾഡിൽ തന്നെ, ഞാൻ പലരും കണ്ടുകൊണ്ടാണ് പറയുന്നത്, വേൾഡിൽ തന്നെ ഡെൻകെയറിൻ്റെ പല്ലെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു വരുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യം അധികം വൈകാതെ തന്നെ സംജാതമാകുമെന്ന് ഞാൻ വിശ്വസിക്കുകയാണ്. കാരണം ഞങ്ങൾ അത്രമാത്രം പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ടാണ്, ക്വാളിറ്റിക്ക് പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. നിങ്ങളൊന്നും അന്വേഷിച്ച് നോക്കിയോളൂ, ഡെൻകെയറിൻ്റെ പല്ല് എവിടെ UK ചെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാലും നമ്പർ 1 ആയിരിക്കും, USA ചെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാലും നമ്പർ 1 ആയിരിക്കും. അല്ല, ഇനി ഇന്ത്യയിൽ ഏത് ഗ്രാമത്തിൽ ചെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാലും ഡെൻകെയറിൻ്റെ പല്ല് ഏറ്റവും ക്വാളിറ്റി ഉള്ളതാണെന്ന് പറയാൻ തക്കവണ്ണം ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ കരുണ കൊണ്ട് ആ ബ്രാൻഡിലേക്ക് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഉയരാനിടയായി. ദൈവം കാണുന്നുള്ള ചിന്തയോടുകൂടിയാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഏതൊരു പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് ചെയ്തു കൊടുക്കുമ്പോഴും ദൈവത്തിന് ചെയ്തു കൊടുക്കുന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു ചിന്തയോടെ ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ എംപ്ലോയീസിനോട് എല്ലാവരും പറയുന്നു. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അതുകൊണ്ട് ക്വാളിറ്റിക്ക് പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ട് ചെയ്താൽ ഒരിക്കലും ഒരു ബിസിനസ്സും പരാജയപ്പെടുകയില്ല എന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ ഈ 37 വർഷത്തെ അനുഭവം.
Thank you, Mr. Kuriakose. So, in a nutshell, what he was saying is that the number one priority for success in the global market is quality. I think that is something that Kerala certainly endorses. I think the Kerala-based companies have demonstrated that even when there was no regulation of the medical device industry as far back as 40 years ago, we had companies who swore by international standards of quality and have developed a pedigree. So on this note, I would like to conclude this very interesting and stimulating panel discussion. I think our panelists have given us a lot of food for thought. Thank you very much, each and every one of you, for joining us today and educating us. Thank you.
Thank you for steering that discussion on stage, our moderator, Mr. C. Padmakumar. I'd like to bring on stage KSIDC Chairperson, Shri C. Balagopal, to present our tokens of appreciation to everyone on stage. നമ്മുടെ ബാലഗോപാൽ സാർ വേദിയിലേക്ക് എത്തുന്ന സമയം കൊണ്ട് ഒരു മൈക്ക് ഒന്ന് കൊടുക്കാമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ചോദ്യം. യെസ്.
മിസ്റ്റർ ജോൺ കുര്യാക്കോസ് വളരെ ലോ പ്രൊഫൈലിൽ നിന്ന് വലിയ ഹൈ പ്രൊഫൈലായിട്ട് ഇന്ന് എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കോളേജുകളിലൊക്കെ പോയി മോട്ടിവേറ്റർ സ്പീക്കറാണ്. ഞാൻ ഇലാഹിയ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കോളേജിലെ ഡയറക്ടറാണ് ഡോക്ടർ അബ്ദുൽ സലാം. ഞാൻ പ്രിൻസിപ്പലായിരുന്ന MES കുറ്റിപ്പുറത്ത് പ്രിൻസിപ്പലായിരുന്നപ്പോഴും അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ഞാൻ കുട്ടികളുടെ മുമ്പിൽ പല കാര്യങ്ങളും പറയാൻ വേണ്ടി വിളിച്ചു വരുത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്, വേറെ കോളേജിലും വരുത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. എനിക്ക് ജോൺ കുര്യാക്കോസിനോട് ചോദിക്കാനുള്ള ചോദ്യം, നമ്മൾ എവിടെ ഒരു പല്ല് പുതിയതായിട്ട് വെൽക്കാൻ ചെന്നാലും ഡെൻറ്റിസ്റ്റിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് ചെന്നാലും അദ്ദേഹം പറയും സ്വിറ്റ്സർലൻഡിൽ നിന്ന് വരേണ്ടതാണ്, ഇറ്റ് മേ ടേക്ക് 2 വീക്സ് എന്ന് പറയും. പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയെടുത്തോളം അദ്ദേഹം ഓർഡർ കൊടുക്കുന്നത് ഡെൻറ്റ് കെയർ മൂവാറ്റുപുഴയിലാണ്. ഈസ് ഇറ്റ് എത്തിക്കലി ഈസ് ഇറ്റ് റൈറ്റ്? കാരണം നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞ് ചോദിക്കുകയല്ല, 2 ആഴ്ച താമസിപ്പിച്ചിട്ട് മൂവാറ്റുപുഴയിൽ കൊടുത്തിട്ട് സ്വിറ്റ്സർലൻഡിൽ നിന്ന് വരുന്നതാണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് നമ്മളൊരു കബളിപ്പിക്കുകയല്ലേ? എത്തിക്കലി അത് ശരിയാണോ മിസ്റ്റർ ജോൺ കുര്യാക്കോസ്?
തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഞങ്ങളുടെ മുഴുവൻ ഈ 450 പ്രോഡക്ട്സും, അഥവാ ഡെൻറ്റിസ്ട്രിയിൽ എന്തെല്ലാം പ്രോഡക്ട്സ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ, പ്രോസ്തറ്റിക്സ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റിൽ എന്തെല്ലാം ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടോ അത് മുഴുവൻ ഞങ്ങൾ മൂവാറ്റുപുഴയിൽ നിർമ്മിക്കുന്നു. ഏറ്റവും ലോകത്തിൽ നിന്ന് അവൈലബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഏറ്റവും നല്ല ടെക്നോളജി ഞങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ടുവന്നിരിക്കുന്നു. ഒരു ഉദാഹരണം പറഞ്ഞാൽ 5 കോടി വിലയുള്ള ലേസർ സിൻറ്ററിങ് മെഷീൻ അടക്കം എല്ലാവിധ ഏറ്റവും സൊഫിസ്റ്റിക്കേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള മെഷീനറികളെല്ലാം കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് ഇന്ത്യയിൽ നിന്ന് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ, കേരളത്തിൽ അഥവാ ഡെൻകെയറിന് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ കഴിയാത്ത ഒരു പല്ലും ഈ ലോകത്താരും ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നില്ല. എല്ലാം ഞങ്ങൾ തന്നെ ഇവിടുന്ന് ഉണ്ടാക്കി കൊടുക്കുന്നുള്ളതാണ് സത്യമായ യാഥാർത്ഥ്യം.
അപ്പോൾ ശ്രീ ജോൺ കുര്യാക്കോസിന് നമ്മുടെ ഒരു സ്നേഹോപഹാരം സമർപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നമുക്ക് ആരംഭിക്കാം. യെസ്, ലെറ്റ്സ് ഫസ്റ്റ് പ്രസന്റ് our token of appreciation to Shri John Kuriakose, founder and managing director of DentCare, one of the greatest success stories in medical equipment manufacturing in Kerala. Dr. Vilu Moravala Patel, founder and CMD of Avastha Gel Limited. Thank you for coming all the way and speaking to us on this panel. Mr. Thomas John, Managing Director of Agape Diagnostics. Dr. Sanjay Behre, Director of Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Sciences and Technology. And finally, Mr. Alok M. Anil, founder of Next Big Innovation Labs. And of course, how can we forget our moderator, Mr. C. Padmakumar, who expertly steered this conversation with these panelists, the Special Officer of Kerala Medical Technology Consortium, and one of the pioneers in medical technology equipment. So please stay for a group picture, yes. Diverse perspectives about how we can take this sector forward and how we can propel Kerala's progress further.